Yesterday was a sad day in American history. Yesterday was a dark day in the history of this great republic. Any day when Americans would have watched their TV and seen a mob storming the United States Capitol would have been a bad day, a horrible day. Any day when Americans saw on their TV the view of the Senate chamber occupied by a mob. Any day when they would have seen on their screen a mob storming into the Capitol, through the rotunda, into the Senate chamber, into the House chamber, and occupying it, would have been a horrible, horrible day. But what was going on in the Capitol yesterday, when the mob did that, makes it a direct attack on the Constitution, on everything that we hold dear. For what was going on at that moment, that very moment, was the process of counting the votes of the President of the United States. A solemn process, a process prescribed by law and carried out with great dignity every 4 years. That fact made this a horribly tragic day. Last night, as I'm sure most Americans were doing, Fran and I were focused on our TV screen watching the images of the Capitol, really in disbelief and in shock. We tried to comprehend what was going on, tried to make some sense of it, and we saw mid-evening an interview with constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley. Turley said something that Fran and I thought was very, very apt, very correct, and something that we all need to think about. And I'll quote, "What we're seeing is chilling for us because it shows a crisis of faith." That is what the Constitution is. It's a leap of faith that we all take together. The people who scaled the walls have lost their faith. And the question for our country is, how much of America is now faithless? Faith in our Constitution, faith in the rule of law. That faith has gotten us through a lot of tough times. A belief in ourselves. This faith in the Constitution and faith in the rule of law is what binds us together. We are a nation whose peoples are drawn from all over the world, who have in common, not a common ancestry for all of us, not a common creed, not a common race, but rather a faith in our country, a faith in our Constitution, a faith in our system of justice. We are truly bound together by that. We are truly bound together by a belief in a basic core set of values. The first presidential race that I focused on as a child was in 1960. Richard Nixon, John Kennedy. When Kennedy won, many Republicans urged Nixon to contest the election, to fight it out, to go to court, believing that the election had been stolen from him by the Democrat political machine in Chicago. Nixon said no. It would divide the country. I won't do it. In January then of 1961, it was his obligation to preside over the United States Senate as the vice president. And it was his obligation, which he fulfilled, in declaring that John F. Kennedy was elected president of the United States. Years later, as a member of the United States Congress, first in the House, then in the Senate, I was honored to be in the chamber when the houses met and the counting of the ballots occurred. I brought my children, granted my children, to see it on more than one occasion every 4 years. I did that because I wanted them to see our system, our great Constitution being played out, the terms of that Constitution being accepted by winners and losers. In 2001, we watched as Vice President Al Gore, as Vice President, after an election that had gone all the way to the United States Supreme Court, declared George W. Bush to be President of the United States. Now, I imagine that to this day, Gore and many other Americans still believe that he won. Yet, peaceful transfer of power took place nonetheless.